Today's episode is brought to you in part by
Hello, everyone, and thank you so much for joining me for Daily Spark TV. You guys know who I am. I'm Dr. Angela Butchester, and you know what I like to do on my show. I want to enlighten, inspire, and empower you to become your best self. Now, scripture reminds us that the tongue is a small thing that makes grand speeches, but a tiny spark can set a great forest on fire, and that's what we want to do today. We want to get you fired up about my guest. I'll be spending time with Karen Skillings today, and we'll be talking about her book, Love, Loss, New Life, Writing Your Way from Grief to Happiness. So go on, get comfy, get cozy, get your coffee or get your tea, because we are about to get started. Hello, Karen. Thank you so much for joining me here on Daily Spark TV.
Thanks so much for having me, Dr. Angela.
Absolutely. Now, I love the title of your book, and I can't wait to talk to you more about it. But the tradition here is that we always ask our guests to tell us a little bit about themselves. There may be a few folks out there that are unfamiliar with you or your work. So first question, what makes you you? Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, I was raised on a farm. I was the third of 8 children. My parents were home missionaries for the Pentecostal Assemblies of Canada. And so that informs a lot of who I am. From an early age, I knew I wanted to be a nurse. So I enrolled in nursing school 49 years ago this month. Graduated. So I have worked in all parts of nursing, hospital. I've been in hospital administration. I've worked palliative care. I've taught nursing for years. And most recently, I've been writing curriculum for a bachelor's degree in nursing program. Yeah.
Wow, that is exciting. Oh my goodness. Well, thank you so much for being one of the first responders that have helped get us through this pandemic time frame, be it that you were working on the front lines or simply keeping those who were encouraged and moving forward. I thank you for doing that. Hats off to all of the medical staff that helped get us through that.
Absolutely.
Now, being an author, is that something that you've always wanted to do, or did you find that this was a way for you to share your message with the world?
I had never considered being an author. I began writing poetry when my husband became ill and was ill for a long time he was a type 1 diabetic who began experiencing heart failure. And as I wrote poems, I sent them to, I'm blessed with a tribe, my tribe, the people who support me. And many of them encouraged me to publish. And I was like, yeah, right, whatever. I'm a nurse. And then after Ron died, I joined some grief sites on social media and started putting some poetry in there. And I was overwhelmed by the responses that I got from there. So people who said that they had a significant loss years and years ago and had never found the words to express themselves and had never healed. And they put those two pieces together and made a connection. And that's really what encouraged me to publish.
Mm-hmm. I love asking that question because you never know really what's the catalyst behind someone choosing to write. I've gotten such varied answers, but I love the fact that everyone acted upon their nudge to write. So that is awesome. Now, the title of your book, Love, Loss, New Life, Writing Your Way from Grief to Happiness. Did you find that the title of the book came to you first? Did it develop out of your writings? How did you come about the title?
It came at the end. I had written many, many poems, and for the purposes of this book, I had to select down. So I was picking poems that I thought would help others in the healing of their grief. And so I began this about a year. I began this project of putting these together about a year after Ron had died. And I had already seen myself come through several phases of healing. I had gone from being absolutely, I want to say, destroyed by his death to healing and thriving in 1 year. And so I just wanted to pick poems that were related to that. And out of that came the title. It summed up the two pieces. Was where I'd gone and where I'd gone physically, but also where I'd gone spiritually.
Oh, I really like that, because I'm looking at love, loss, and new life, and that is so true. I find that many times people also forget that when you go through a divorce, there's a grieving process there as well. So there is that loss. Of course, there's nothing like losing our loved one to death. However, I think more people need to be encouraged to seek a book that's going to help them get to that new life portion that you're talking about as well. So I love the title. Very, very intriguing.
Loss can be anything, Dr. Angela. It's yes, divorce, death, but also loss of a job, loss of a relationship with a child. I've had lots of people talking to me about how their children have become estranged from them over vaccine mandates, for instance. So there's a huge emotional and spiritual pain going on in the world right now. It doesn't have to be death of a spouse.
Yeah, you're so right, and I do hope that that people are able to find more common ground. I am that person that says, let's not focus on the things that tear us apart, but instead let's focus on those things that bring us together. Doom and gloom, negativity will always be around. It will find its way into a bright and sunshiny room, but let's focus on that sunshine instead. So I love that it's all inclusive, which is good for my next question then. I usually ask it this way. Is your book appropriate for someone as young as high school? So that 14 to 18-year-old, or do you think perhaps a little older, college age and older would be more appropriate?
I think it's anyone who's having deep suffering from loss, whatever loss that might be. Yeah. Probably high school would be the youngest.
Okay. Yeah, because our teens, our young people are really going through some life challenges. And unfortunately, I really believe that this might be the generation that has gone through the most so openly. And it can be really, really tough with social media and all of that. Many times their vulnerability is being exposed to others. So yeah, to be able to give them something to help guide them through. Thank you for that clarification. Now, when it comes to the proper way to read your book, many times an author will suggest that you read it according to chapters. That's why chapters or sections are there. Others will say, it is reader's choice. Simply read it from cover to cover, however you like. My next question to you is, what is the best way to utilize? How should we read your book?
People tell me that what they've done is they've read the whole thing, and it's in book or on audio tape. So they'll listen to the whole thing, and then they will find the chapter that resonates with them currently, where they're sitting at the moment. And the way the book is structured, it's got a section of poems, and then it's got some musings that I just explained what was going on for me at that time. And then it has prompts for the reader to begin to write their own story. And that is where the healing piece is. So it would be difficult to write in a stage that you're not in.
And I like the idea of reading it all once, and then going back and really reading that section, that chapter that really resonates with you. Because we do know people may not be familiar that there are stages of grief, but I think even the unknowing will realize that, oh, wow, I read that then and it was really good, but I am in a different place now. Let me go back and check out that other chapter, and they will see how they've progressed through. So I love that. I love that.
Very encouraging to see progression.
It really is. It really is. And as a pastoral counselor, I'm always looking for ways to encourage any client that if they feel like they're stuck or they feel like they want additional resources, what is something that's available that's going to help you if you can't get to me immediately, or perhaps you even know someone else that's going through something. And folks will say, do you have a book I can read? So it really is important that we share this type of information so people know that they're not alone as they go through the various stages of life out there. So thank you for that. Now, when we talk about loss and grief, various people have an idea of the time frame in which you're supposed to get over whatever it is that has happened in your life. How did you address that time frame? It's been a year, get over it. It's been 6 months, get over it. How did you address that issue?
I was hearing, it's been a month. Come on now. Wash your face, put on your makeup. I'm taking you out for lunch. And meanwhile, I'm sitting in a puddle of tears because weeping was what I did. I had no control over that. So totally artificial and unreasonable. What I did find is that people in the social media groups I belong to often spoke about how it had been 20 years since they had become bereaved and they had not regained their own identity. One of the poems I wrote about 3 months after Ron died was Shipwrecked. And it was helping me understand what exactly my grief was about, because I was totally shocked by my grief. And this lady wrote and said, I have been shipwrecked for 20 years. And I just thought, oh my goodness, not for me. That can't be my life. I need to do this differently.
Yeah. And, it is so hard, and it can be so tough for so many people, just according to their tribe or their support team, the folks that they have around them, how they themselves communicate, how they deal with the highs and lows of their life in general, how that person affected them specifically. There are so many, you are so right there. There's so many bits and pieces to the equation. But I do like the term shipwrecked, because so many people do feel that they have run aground and there's nothing they can do. Right. And they can't seem to get unstuck from that grief. So I'm glad that that's something that you talk about in your book. That is definitely helpful.
It's just a sense of drowning.
Yes,
yeah.
It really is. I have had personal loss myself, and I do know what that means. To have to bury one's child is never a good thing. Totally an accident, but it still hurts your heart,
Absolutely.
So one's pain is still one's pain, and it can take you to a very tough place to be. But like I said, I know that I personally had a great support team that was there to help me. And that can be a really big difference. Having your book as a resource can be that difference for someone who's looking for something to give them that upturn. So we need to talk about it. It's something that we do not need to brush it under the rug. We need to talk about loss and grief, because it happens to someone every day. So absolutely. So Karen, it is time for us to take a very short break. But before we do, can you remind everyone, please, what is the title of your book? Where can we get a copy? And how do we stay in contact with you?
It's called Love, Loss, New Life, Writing Your Way from Grief to Happiness. It's available on Amazon and anywhere that you buy books. And you can contact me through a Gmail site, which is lovelossnewlife@gmail.com.
I love it. Alrighty, viewers, we'll be back right after this.
Today's episode is brought to you in part by
Welcome to Daily Spark TV. Are you an author with a faith-based book? Be a guest. Serious about your product or service and want to try something new? Sponsor an episode. I see you're ready to get started. So visit drangela.chester.com. Thanks again for watching Daily Spark TV.
Thank you so much for joining me for Daily Spark TV. Now, my next question for you, Karen, is as someone who has gone through this process yourself, and you have shared from personal experience, and it's always good to be able to do that, right? Because people know you're not just talking at them, but you're really sharing your wisdom with them as well. My next question for you is, what insights did you gain along the way?
The first and most critical one was that I was not prepared. My husband was ill for many years and then palliative for several months. And we both we saw his passing as the thing that needed to happen. He needed to move past this. He was looking forward to being done with his body. So I was shocked when I fell apart. I was no stranger to death. I had 3 unborn children that have died. I lost my parents, my grandparents, 2 of my brothers. I've had many patients dying. I worked in palliative care. I taught end-of-life nursing. I researched end-of-life nursing. I was totally unprepared for what happened. Excuse me. The other thing that I was surprised about was how painful the comforting of others can be for the newly bereaved. I had people who were giving me advice, people who were just giving me platitudes, but telling me things like, he's in a better place. He would never want you to grieve like this. He's watching over you, so you're going to be fine. Those things were so difficult to receive graciously. But the most important thing, insight that I received was that I suddenly became aware in a way that I never had in my life of the great comforter. I became aware that I was seen and I was being comforted by the great comforter. And how I knew that was that these poems started coming to me. They didn't come from my mind. They came to me one line at a time, so insistently that I would need to write it down, and then the next words would come. And I realized that it was my soul speaking to my mind. And that was because I mattered. And in my whole life of my whole spiritual life, I never had that specific awareness.
Oh, I love that you recognize that within yourself, and you were able to come to that place. And even though we do know that people are trying to be kind and they have well-meaning intentions when they say that, it can be difficult. It can be rough. When you hear that, it almost goes in one ear and out the other, that it's just kind of noise almost. You're so right. And I think that people need to be aware of that, that even though one of the things I remember someone sharing with me was, they said, Dr. Angela, I wish almost that people had said either nothing, just put their hand on my shoulder and said, I'm here for you. Absolutely. Or if they had said something like, I have no idea what you're going through. Like, that would have been so much better than trying to pretend that they knew what I was going through. So
I didn't want to be fixed. I did not want to be fixed.
Yes. Yes.
People did not want me to suffer. That couldn't be changed. It was the fact of the matter. When you have a deep love, you will suffer at the loss. That can't be fixed.
Oh, yes. Oh, yes. And I mean, just unconsolable at times. I have seen people go through that, losing a spouse, and it's like, I just don't know what to do. And you're right, you can't, there's nothing you can say in that moment that's going to fix that it is what it is in that moment. And you just have to process through that. Wow. Yeah, that is so true. Now, we know that for many people, there's certain ways that you process through. There's certain things that you can do. There are certain ways that friends and family try to help you get back to that happy place, if you will. But you mentioned something about a third way. What is the third way of dealing with grief?
This was key. You may be familiar with this from the field of psychology. From the field of nursing, I was not aware of this. What I learned from being in conversation with others and watching others is that one of the ways people deal with grief is just deny it. Just push it down, get dressed, put on your makeup, get out there, put that smile on, fake it till you make it. We know that that's not healthy. That comes up to bite you in the butt later. Another way that people deal with it is they identify with their grief. They become the widow. It becomes their new persona. They become the lamenter. This is who they become. 20 years later, they are still the griever. I did not want that for myself, but I didn't know what the options were. I did not know what else to do. And what happened is these words started coming that I started writing. And what I learned is that when I was writing, I was getting out of my monkey mind, those thoughts that just go round and round and round and make you suffer like crazy. And I was getting out of that flurry of emotions, and I was getting deeper than that. Shining the light of awareness is what Eckhart Tolle calls it, which I did not know about at that time. But through writing, I was able to kind of step back from the griefs, a tiny step, and started finding the right words. And that takes some work. And through finding the right words, I was examining what was happening. And words would come, the poems would come, and then I would write them, and then I would read them, and then I would learn about what was happening, and then I healed. And it's all the work that's needed is to shine the light of awareness, deep awareness on your pain, and healing automatically happens. Eckhart calls that transmutation, but it's an amazing miracle.
It really is. You have mentioned a very important thing. So many times people get stuck in that denial and in that anger phase where they cannot transition out of that. It is natural to be upset that your person is gone. However, for whatever reason, however it happened, it is a very human response to have that. But I thought it's very important that you mentioned some people do take that on as a character, that they think about what type of iconic griever can I be? And you know, and it's they choose to wear black forever, the black hat with the veil forever. They
never
burn
smile
the
again
candle in the window forever, simply because they think that that is a way in which they can honor the deceased person. Moving on never crosses their mind, but everyone has to get to that stage of acceptance so that they can have that upturn. So thank you for mentioning that. Someone may help someone understand that it's okay and natural to move on in whatever that time frame.
Heal, right? Healing is a natural process. Yeah,
absolutely. And we don't have to stay there. So, I love that. I love that. Now, in your healing process, what is maybe one thing that you have noticed that has really impacted your life the most? But before you answer that question, I want to give you an option. We have about 3 minutes left in the show. If you would like to share some of your poetry, you're welcome to do that as well. But what is the one thing that has impacted you the most in your healing journey?
Besides becoming aware of being seen and cherished by the divine, which is probably the most significant, I learned the attitude of gratitude. Because when you are choosing to be in a state of gratitude, you cannot at the same time be grieving. You cannot be suffering. And that was huge for me. Choosing to have gratitude changed my life. Choosing to be in relationship as the beloved changed my life. It means that I can live every day with that Christmas spirit of love, joy, and peace. And what more could a person want? And I could just read two of the poems that would describe the change from 3 months after Ron died to a year later. And Shipwrecked says, I finally understand this grief. It's not just that I've lost my first mate. The whole damn ship has gone down. The floor upon which I could plant and move my feet, the sides that tucked me in and kept me safe from dangerous seas, and the keel that stabilized my life, the rudder that kept me true to course, the lines that fill my sails with joy, the berth that offered a place of rest. The whole damn ship went down. First the shock of the deep cold water, now the endless dog paddle, sometimes head above the seas, but often swamped by rogue waves and no shore in sight. And the last poem that I'll read is from when I was in my thriving place a year later, and it's A Jealous Lover, speaking of my soul. It makes me smile today to think of soul as a jealous lover. Though I have work to do and obligations to meet, I am literally pulled away, and that is so unlike me. What am I doing, you ask? I'm playing outside, sitting still on my deck, soaking up nature, planting gardens, weeding pathways, bringing water to plant people, admiring birds and bees and butterflies, hanging my wind chime in a better spot and being out of my mind, just going with the flow, trysting with my soul, whose pleading I cannot refuse. Come outside and play.
Oh, I love it. And you can see the progression. You can
absolutely.
definitely see the progression. Karen Skillings, thank you so much for spending some time with me here today on Daily Spark TV. I know that I have enjoyed talking to you today, and I want to say thank you for sharing not only your story, but your work as well.
Thank you for the opportunity. I really appreciate it.
Absolutely. Now, before I let you go one last time, can you remind everyone, please, what is the title of your book? Where can we get a copy? And how do we stay in contact with you?
So the book is called Love, Loss, New Life, Writing Your Way from Grief to Happiness. It's available at Amazon or anywhere else that you can buy books. And lovelossnewlife@gmail.com is how you can contact me. I look forward to hearing from people.
Absolutely. Thank you again for being on the show.
I appreciate it. Have a great day.
You as well. And viewers, thank you for spending time with us here today as well. I hope that we have enlightened, inspired, and empowered you again today. As always, may the Lord continue to shine his face upon you. May you receive his grace and his mercy in all that you do. Until next time, everyone, remember that you are blessed in the Lord. Have a great day, everyone.
Welcome to Daily Spark TV. Are you an author with a faith-based book? Be a guest. Serious about your product or service and want to try something new? Sponsor an episode. I see you're ready to get started. So visit drangela.chester.com. Thanks again for watching Daily Spark TV.